Because the 2024 divers, equipped with gear undreamed of in the past, were heading straight to the coordinates long rumored to hold a secret buried for 3,000 years. Ron Wyatt, the controversial trailblazer. Long before the sonar scans and AI drones, there was a man with a Bible, a compass, and a conviction. Ron Wyatt was no university-trained archaeologist. He was a nurse anesthetist from Tennessee, a quiet man whose faith led him to the deserts and seas of the Middle East. To many in academia, he was a fringe enthusiast, dismissed as a modern-day treasure hunter. But to others, he was a pioneer, a man who dared to follow the literal words of Scripture wherever they might lead. In 1978, Wyatt made his first dive into the Red Sea. What he claimed to find beneath the waves would ignite both devotion and division. He spoke of coral-covered shapes, structures with unnatural symmetry, chariot wheels, not one, but several, 4, 6, and even 8-spoked wheels, preserved in coral but unmistakable in form. He claimed to see axles, human bones, horse remains, a battlefield sealed in time by salt and sea. There were no academic papers, no peer-reviewed studies, just photos, handwritten notes, grainy underwater footage, and impassioned testimony. Skeptics scoffed. Governments refused permits to extract what might be there. And archaeologists warned that coral could mimic almost any shape, especially in the mind of a believer. And yet, the story wouldn't die. For every critic, there were 10 who were inspired. Wyatt's accounts spread through church circles, prophecy books, and religious documentaries. To them, he was more than a man. He was a vessel, a witness, a voice crying out from the deep. Over the decades, others followed in his footsteps. Independent researchers, pastors, divers with GoPros and prayer journals. And each time they descended into the Gulf of Aqaba, they returned with questions and wonder. Maybe Wyatt didn't find everything, but maybe, just maybe, he found something. The coral-covered mystery. Why weren't Wyatt's discoveries removed? Why no museum exhibits? Why no physical proof? According to Wyatt, the answer was both scientific and spiritual. First, the coral. The Red Sea is a vibrant, living ecosystem. Over centuries, coral grows over submerged objects, covering them, preserving their shapes, but not their material. What remains is a limestone-like shell. If you try to remove it, it crumbles. Imagine a ghost of a wheel, intact only because it hasn't been touched. Second, the laws. Egypt's Antiquities Department is famously strict. Removing artifacts, even suspected ones, from undersea sites is illegal without overwhelming evidence and exhaustive permits. Wyatt claimed he was denied these more than once. Third, the golden wheel. In one of the most debated parts of his testimony, Wyatt said that he discovered a wheel, shimmering, gold in color, resting upright on the seabed. He reported it to authorities, who allegedly took possession of it. And then, nothing. No photo, no report, no confirmation, only silence. Critics called it convenient fiction. Believers called it tragic suppression. Was it truth, delusion, or something else? What's undeniable is this. Wyatt lit a fire that hasn't gone out. For decades, his dives were whispered about in church basements and Bible studies. Did you hear about the chariot wheels in the Red Sea? Could they be real? And now, decades later, a new team of divers returned. To the very coordinates Wyatt gave, with the technology he never had. What they found may vindicate, or forever complicate, Ron Wyatt's legacy. The modern-day discovery. The 2024 dive team didn't expect what they saw. Not fully. At first, the seabed was silent. Sonar swept across smooth terrain, punctuated by occasional rock formations and coral gardens. But then, something emerged, not on the surface, but in the patterns. Symmetry, repetition, geometry, where there should be none. Structures with a circular form, rough yet evenly spaced. Axle-like connectors between coral masses. The deeper the drones pushed, the more the shapes repeated. Then came something no one expected. A glint. Just beneath a veil of sediment, a golden flash caught the light. Metallic. Faint. Possibly degraded. But unmistakable against the muted palette of the seabed. Divers descended, cameras rolling. What they recorded sent shivers down spines in the control room above. Fragments of chariots, split wooden spokes, long decayed but outlined in coral. Bronze-like fixtures. What appeared to be human femurs and equine jawbones. Curved, fossilized, wrapped in sea growth. But it was the arrangement that stunned them most. The bodies, the wreckage. It wasn't random. It looked like chaos frozen in motion, as if an entire line of soldiers, horses, and wheels had been lifted, thrown, and dropped mid-charge. One diver described it as a watery tomb. Another, a graveyard of war. Footage showed remains oriented in the same direction, as if all fleeing or charging forward. Some fragments bore signs of violent impact, shattered axles, snapped spokes, contorted skeletal frames. Was this an ancient battle, or the collapse of an army, swallowed by divine force? Scientists hesitate, but the shapes don't lie. The location aligns with scripture, and the discovery? It speaks volumes, without a single word. Public shock and suppression. The footage didn't stay secret for long. Within weeks of the dive, snippets began appearing online. Grainy clips of the coral wheels, freeze frames of diver cams, and audio whispers of excitement and disbelief. It started with niche prophecy forums, then TikTok, then YouTube, and then it exploded. The internet erupted. Millions watched. Comment sections lit up with verses from Exodus. Theories poured in from every corner of the globe. Was this the long-awaited proof? Had the Red Sea just yielded up its dead? One commentator wrote, "This isn't just archaeology. This is judgment, preserved in stone." News outlets scrambled. Some cautiously reported it as a possible archaeological anomaly. Others mocked. Late-night hosts cracked jokes. Greg Gutfeld famously quipped, "I want a refund on my history textbook." But then, the videos started disappearing. Clips vanished. Accounts were suspended. Entire threads were wiped from forums overnight. Some called it copyright enforcement. Others claimed national security. But to many viewers, it felt like censorship, suppression, like someone didn't want the world to know what had been found. Theories surged. Was this a cover-up by academic elites? A media blackout ordered by secular governments? Or simply a panic response to unverified claims? Ironically, the suppression only magnified the discovery. People began revisiting Ron Wyatt's original dives. His grainy footage was now being analyzed with new eyes. Debates flared in university halls. Scholars who once dismissed the idea as fantasy were now forced, reluctantly, to take a second look. The ripple effect was undeniable. Faith communities worldwide reignited with passion. Pastors delivered sermons on the Exodus with new urgency. Documentaries were announced overnight. For many, this wasn't just a story anymore. It was a revelation. The return of biblical archaeology. Zoom out. Look beyond the Red Sea, and you'll see a shift that's been building for years. From the snow-capped flanks of Mount Ararat to the jagged wilderness near Mount Sinai, a quiet renaissance has been stirring. Biblical archaeology, once sidelined as speculative or irrelevant, is making a fierce return. New tools have changed the game. Drones now map terrain once thought impassable. AI scans thousands of documents for ancient references. LiDAR pierces jungle canopies. High-resolution sonar reveals what the naked eye never could. These technologies, combined with satellite imagery and digital modeling, are uncovering anomalies that have no explanation in secular textbooks. And it's not just about chariots. There are renewed whispers about the Ark of the Covenant, its last rumored location traced to deep vaults beneath Ethiopia. The Dead Sea Scrolls continue to reveal new fragments, challenging long-held historical timelines. Excavations near ancient Jericho suggest sudden collapses, walls that fell, not weathered. It's not that these truths were never there. It's that we're finally looking with open minds and open tech. And more than that, it's not just scholars leading the charge anymore. It's believers, explorers, technologists, ordinary people with extraordinary curiosity. People who ask, what if the Bible wasn't metaphorical, but historical? The lines are blurring. The divide between faith and science is not as wide as once believed. Because truth doesn't care where it comes from. Implications. What else lies beneath? So now, the world stands at a crossroads. If this discovery is true, if those coral formations really are what we think they are, then what else have we missed? What else lies beneath the oceans, deserts, and mountains? Could the great miracles we read about be not poetic allegory, but historical record? What about the plagues of Egypt? The manna in the wilderness? The sun standing still at Jericho? What if the timeline of human history isn't incomplete, but misaligned? For centuries, science and faith have been painted as opposites, locked in an eternal tug-of-war. But what if they're partners? Two lenses viewing the same reality from different angles? The chariot wheels may never sit in a